Welcome into Clippers Countdown as your LA Clippers are in game 2 of this 5-game road trip in a place where if you make that number 2 hand gesture and flip it upside down, you'll see an A as they're in A-Town, Atlanta, and taking on the 13-9 Hawks who are flying high, even with a broken wing right now, still being without Trae Young, as they have a healthy Jalen Johnson who has emerged as a bona fide star that could help lead this new era of Hawks basketball. As meanwhile, we're left wondering if this Clippers era could be coming to an end as they have the 8th worst record in the league at 5-16 and continue to free fall down the standings after their most recent loss Monday night in Miami, where they gave up a franchise record tying 24 main threes to the Heat, got down by 38 and ended up losing 140 to 123. But Coach Lue pulled a lever we hadn't seen yet this season by benching the starters early in the third, and they seemed to respond to the message that was sent by playing harder and even making a run late in the game. The question is, can any of that energy carry over to the first quarter and throughout the 48 minutes tonight now? Because at this point, it's clear no one's position or job is safe as Chris Paul has been sent home, a Clippers legend, as there appear to be a clashing of leadership styles and personalities leading to his dismissal. Where do we go from here? Well, Clippers are in Atlanta. That's where. Tip-off from State Farm Arena between the Clippers and Hawks is just about 59 minutes away. Coming up, you're going to hear from Joey Lynn from SI Now.
Hello,
He'll talk more about CP3, but up next, it's your radio voice of the Clippers and Carlo Jimenez. I'm Adam Osland, and you're listening to the Los Angeles Clippers Audio Network. Clippers in Atlanta taking on the Hawks. Tip-off just about 56 minutes away. Welcome back in. It's Clippers Countdown. I'm Adam Osland. Still to come, you're going to hear from Joey Lynn of SI Now, but join the show from State Farm Arena as your radio voice of the Clippers and Carlo Jimenez. Carlo, how are we doing, my friend?
Adam, we are doing good. We're here in ATL. I've made it after a long travel day, and it's good to play some basketball. I'm excited for the Clippers to get back out on the hardwood.
You made it. Some no longer there, though. We got to hit this head on, I guess. CP3 being sent home late last night. Carlo, what was your reaction to the news?
Yeah, I think like everybody, I was very surprised. Not often do you see a player sent home in the middle of the season, sent home in the middle of the road trip. And, Lawrence Frank echoed today, and Ty Lue spoke to it as well. It just wasn't the right fit for this team at this time. Obviously, there were conversations behind closed doors about, what the expectation would be coming in. Clearly, whatever those conversations at the beginning of the season were did not align with what was going on during the season, and the Clippers just felt it was maybe time to part ways with Chris Paul. Lawrence Frank spoke to it well, that he feels that Paul's legacy with the Clippers is not damaged in any way by what has gone on this season. He also spoke to the fact that he doesn't feel like Chris Paul's impact on the team is the reason, it's at least on the floor, that the Clippers decided to let him go. So just wasn't a fit for this team. You wish the best for Chris Paul, and for the Clippers, you move on to today and trying to get back in the win column.
So before we get to that, Clippers lost on Monday 140 to 123 to the Miami Heat in a game where they were down by as many as 38, and something happened we hadn't seen all season. Coach Lue said enough is enough. He didn't like the way the starters were playing to start that third quarter, pulled them. Kawhi comes back in the ball game down 38. They start playing harder. You hope the message was received out there.
Yeah, and you talked about it too after that game, which I thought was really important, Adam, is it will matter if the Clippers come out today with the correct energy, the correct focus. They close that game strong. You would hope that leads to some success tonight for the Clippers. Can you start the first half strong and get buckets on the offensive end? But, man, Kawhi Leonard has looked like playoff Kawhi in his return. I mean, 35 points his last 3 games, 56% from the field. He has been unbelievably efficient on the offensive end, and then great defensively for this team, really helped them get back in rhythm. I think the Clippers have been spoiled with the fact that every time Kawhi Leonard comes out and deals with an injury, somehow Ty Lue has been able to keep the ship afloat, and the Clippers have remained competitive. And you see how much they've missed him with the way he's come back and played extremely well.
Yeah, this Clippers team looking for anything right now to get pointed back in the right direction. Unfortunately, they still would lose that ball game by 17. Another game where it's a game against the fastest team in the NBA in a league that has gone much faster against an older Clippers team. And they really struggled early on, it looked like, especially midway point of that second quarter, things started to unravel, and they just couldn't keep up with Miami, Carlo.
No, I mean, they could not. And I think for the Clippers, it's just getting back defensively, closing out the three-point shooters. Miami matches a franchise record, 24 made threes in that game. The Clippers have to be better at guarding the three-point line. Adam, I asked Joey Kimball, our statistician back at home, hey, anything you can provide me? I'm like, hey, the Clippers are doing this well. And actually, when the Clippers have defended the three-point line, they've done it at an elite rate. Closely defended threes, the Clippers have the third best defensive field goal percentage in the league. It's just they got to get out to those shooters. When they're on them, they've done a great job. The question is, can you get out to them? You pointed out some numbers about shooting variance. It just has not been the Clippers' game. And it was interesting, Quinn Snyder spoke pregame about how he felt the last time the Clippers and the Hawks faced off, the Hawks got lucky. And sometimes you need a little luck that can kind of propel you forward. It has not felt like the Clippers have gotten lucky at all to start this season. Maybe that starts today.
See if their fortunes change in Atlanta. More from Carlo Jimenez coming up next. Tip off just about 50 minutes away. Clippers and Hawks, and you're listening to Clippers Countdown right here on the Los Angeles Clippers Audio Network. Clippers in Atlanta taking on the Hawks. Tip-off is just about 49 minutes away. I'm Adam Moslem. This is Clippers Countdown on an eventful day, and what some would see in a negative fashion, Clipper Nation, as Chris Paul was sent home, no longer with the team. Going to try to move forward, though. We'll talk more about it with Joey Lynn in just a little bit in our Media Roundtable segment, but let's get back to your radio voice of the Clippers in Carlo Jimenez. So, Carlo, James Harden really struggling the last couple of games, I would say. Overall this season, easy to see he's been their best player. He's been available. He's been consistent. Just the last couple of games hasn't looked quite like himself out there. What have you seen?
Yeah, I think for James Harden, obviously the minute totals have been something somewhat of a concern. He's top 10 in the NBA in minutes per game, but I feel like for the Clippers, it's just getting him a little more rest, getting him a little more help on the offensive end. I'm not surprised T. Lue decided to sit him at 20 minutes last game, just get some sort of rest for a guy who's played extensive minutes every single game this season for the Clippers. He was excellent last time against Atlanta, 35-point triple-double. Can he repeat that once again?
Yeah, and some of the young guys obviously got run in that game on Monday against the Miami Heat. Yannick Conan Niederhauser got a quick 6 points out there
He did.
in 12 minutes. Who knows what we see minutes-wise from him moving forward, but an exciting young player nonetheless.
No, I mean, he's shown flashes. I think we have to remember this is somebody who didn't really start playing basketball seriously till he was 15 years old. He's 22 at the current moment, still trying to figure out what it means to play in his body. I mean, he grew into his size late in his high school career. But nonetheless, I thought he was great in the pick and roll. I thought he was good defending the rim. And the Clippers see him as a true development piece, somebody who can learn from somebody like Ivica Zubac, who was developed really well through the Clipper program. I mean, the Lakers gave him away. Now Zoo is an all-defensive team selection and averaging 16 and 11 this year for the Clippers. So they can continue that development with somebody like Yannick Conan Niederhauser, who can extend the floor a little bit, be more of that athletic, quick-moving big Zoo, more of a back-to-the-basket type of guy. I think that would be huge for the Clippers to have that 1-2 punch.
On the other side, when the Clippers were down big against Miami, Nick Batum was one of those vets that came back out there. He knocked down a couple of three-pointers, played 20 minutes. Obviously need his play and leadership right now to turn this thing around.
Yeah, I mean, the Clippers just have to get something really from everyone in this game. But you mentioned it, the ability to have a voice to look to, a leader who you can see and bring you that positive energy. That's going to be big for the Clippers. And you're playing an Atlanta team that's coming off a close loss against the Pistons. They've won 4 of the last 6. They feel good. Now, Jalen Johnson was downgraded a little bit earlier to questionable. That's huge. He leads the team in points and rebounds and is their second best shooter from the field. So if he's not good to go with no Trae Young, Kristaps Porzingis, you might have an opportunity here for the Clippers. But you're right. They have to be able to come into this ball game just needing some sort of momentum, maybe something that they were able to build from Miami.
Clippers in Atlanta taking on the Hawks. Tip-off just about 45 minutes away. Carlo Jimenez on the call. Coming up next, we're going back in time in Clippers Rewind right here on the Los Angeles Clippers Audio Network. Clippers in Atlanta taking on the Hawks. Tip-off just 43 minutes away here on Clippers Countdown, the official pregame show of your LA Clippers. Still to come, Joey Lynn will be here from SI Now. Discuss more about Chris Paul being sent home, no longer with the team. Looks like he won't be with the Clippers much longer. As we heard from Lawrence Frank earlier today, he spoke with the media. Joey Lynn was there. We'll get reaction from him. But first, we're going back in time in Clippers Rewind to April 16th of 1994. In theaters at the time was Four Weddings and a Funeral with Hugh Grant, who was becoming quite a big deal. Also in theaters was The Mighty Ducks 2. Big deal to me. Gordon Bombay, The Knuckle Puck, great sequel. Biggest song on the radio at the time, big deal to my sister, The Sign by Ace of Base, and the Clippers were taking on the Lakers, but it was a recently acquired former Atlanta Hawks legend that went off for the Clippers on this night.
Jackson with the ball in the front court. Jackson over to Dominic to tie it up from a 20-foot area, gets it. Dominique Wilkins, long pass front court to Jackson, no look pass back to Dominique, he fires, three-pointer is good again. Nice play by the Clippers, really moving the ball well, much better than the Lakers. Martin, front court to Jackson, lob under to Wilkins, lay it up and in. He could have slammed that baby if he wanted to. Lottie's hook shot is an air ball. He threw it from 15, an air ball by 2. Here's Dominique down the middle, underneath score. Dominique Wilkins, not no good, the rebound is long. Oh, up high to get the ball in one hand is Harper. Long lead to Dominique, forget it, fellas. Here he comes, scores it. Great play, beautiful. Pick and roll under to Wilkins. He puts it up, throws it in. Great shot. He was hit as he shot it. Jackson takes the ball with 7 on the clock. They give it to Williams. He drives on Lynch. Stops, 16-foot jumper. Oh, what a shot! What a shot! Lynch did everything but bite him. He was right in his jersey. Great play for his 40th point. Here's Jackson giving the ball to Wilkins. Slam dunk. Beautiful, beautiful play. He is some kind of a player. My hat's off to him, baby. All right, 7 seconds left. Shot by Smith for 3, no good. The rebound to Wilkins. They don't have to go to the front court. They're near the locker room. They win the ball game. Dominique Wilkins wound up with 42 points, 11 rebounds. He made 16 out of 30 field goals. It was an exciting basketball game.
Chick Hearn on the call there. Up note, Magic Johnson was then the coach of the Lakers during that time, brief amount of time. Now, Dominique Wilkins was only with the Clippers for 25 games, but he was great. Averaged 29 points, 7 boards per game. Gave the Clippers some memorable performances like that one there against the Lakers. I was back in 1994. Coming up next, your player to watch. I'm at a Moslin, Clippers in Atlanta taking on the Hawks. And you're listening to the Los Angeles Clippers Audio Network. Clippers in Atlanta taking on the Hawks. Tip-off just 37 minutes away. I'm Adam Osland. This is Clippers Countdown, the official pregame show of your LA Clippers. Coming up, we got Joey Lynn coming on from SI Now. We'll talk about the CP3 situation with him being sent home late last night. But first,
this is LA Clippers basketball.
Watching this guy play right now is really something.
Players to watch.
I'm watching a former Atlanta Hawk. I know he's removed there, having played a couple of seasons in Utah too, but John Collins helped them get to an Eastern Conference Finals about 5 years ago. He and Trae Young on that team did a lot of work. Kevin Huerter as well, especially in that Game 7 against Philly in the second round. John Collins been struggling a little bit in the starting lineup. Just 4 of 12 against Miami with 10 points. Missing some easy ones, some good looks he normally gets to go. It just seems like it's in his head right now. He's trying to figure things out next to an unfamiliar group with the starters. Did play much better against Dallas, where he was 9 of 10 and had 21 points. I want to see if we get 20-plus from John Collins in this ball game tonight. They need his motor, his activity out there, and just how hard he plays on the offensive end with his ability and athleticism to get downhill, get to the rim, and get this Clippers team some easy buckets. They do sorely need. Clippers taking on his former squad in the Hawks. Tip-off 36 minutes away. Clippers in Atlanta. I'm Adam Osland. You're listening to the Los Angeles Clippers Audio Network. Clippers and Hawks from Atlanta. Tip-off 33 minutes away here on Clippers Countdown. Coming up, we'll have Joey Lynn on from SI Now to speak on all things CP3 as he was on the press conference Zoom call with Lawrence Frank a little bit earlier today. But let's get to your injury report. For the Clippers, still no Bradley Beal, of course. Bogdan Bogdanovic out with that left hip contusion that has had him out the last week and a half or so. Jordan Miller now out with that lower back soreness right after he came back on Monday against the Miami Heat. Had a quick 6-0 run, and unfortunately, the hamstring turned into a lower back injury now. Still no Derek Jones Jr. Obviously, he'll be evaluated in about 4.5 weeks from now. As for the Atlanta Hawks in this ball game, Kristaps Porzingis out with illness and no Trae Young still. coming off that MCL sprain, still yet to take the court. Clippers taking on the Atlanta Hawks. Tip-off 32 minutes away. Up next, Joey Lynn from SI Now. I'm Adam Osland, and you're listening to the Los Angeles Clippers Audio Network. Clippers in Atlanta taking on the Hawks as they try to turn this thing around. Clippers at 5-16 on the season. Coming up, we'll get your drive around the league. But while we have a moment, let's pause 10 seconds for station and identification here on the Los Angeles Clippers Audio Network.
LA Clippers basketball. AM 570 KLAC Los Angeles, 98.7 KYSR HD2 Los Angeles, and iHeart Radio station.
Join the show right now from Sports Illustrated is your LA Clippers beat writer Joey Lynn at Joey Lynn with 2 N's and an underscore at the end is where you follow him on X. Hey, Joey, thanks for doing this today in particular.
Adam, thank you for having me. As always, I appreciate it.
Your reaction, initial gut reaction when you found out the news. I don't know if you were up late last night when it happened or up early and saw it later on.
Yeah, up late, up early, whatever you want to call it. I was all of those things. I'm running on just a few hours of sleep right now trying to keep up with this story. But my initial reaction was surprised, of course, right? Like you see CP's Instagram story, you're not fully sure what it means. And then the reports kind of start to come in. Lawrence Frank has a statement and everybody's trying to figure out what exactly led to this point. So, of course, a lot has come out and transpired between then and now. We have learned a little bit more, but yeah, I was surprised, as I believe everybody else was.
Joey Lynn, our guest here, reacting to the news of CP3 being sent home. He'll no longer be with the team. You mentioned learning more. What was the most important thing you learned from Lawrence Frank earlier today on that Zoom call?
Well, understandably so, Lawrence did not go into any details on the specific incident or incidents that led to this ultimate decision. He said he wanted to keep a lot of that in-house. But the question that I asked him was one that I really was hoping to get a little bit more out of him, pertaining to really the difference in what the Clippers thought was going to be a good fit and what ultimately ended up transpiring just last night with him being sent home. Because when Lawrence Frank was speaking to the media several months ago, right before they were about to sign Chris Paul, he said that any player who was going to get that final roster spot was going to be somebody that, they knew could play, but was also going to be okay with not playing every single night, was going to be somebody that was going to be a positive to the locker room. So it felt like, in their eyes, Chris checked all of those boxes. And then fast forward just a couple months later, he's now been sent home. So I asked him what changed, and he essentially said, you make certain moves with, good intentions, and sometimes they don't always work out. He said, we're going to keep the specifics in-house, but that's essentially what he left it at. So in terms of what Lawrence told us today, not a whole lot beyond what we all have kind of been able to either take from other reporting or just kind of glean from the optics, is that, clearly they just didn't feel that he was a good fit for this team anymore.
So it seemed like obviously it wasn't performance-based because he wasn't even playing that much. He wasn't expected to play that much. While there had been a drop-off from what we saw last year in San Antonio, that wasn't the issue. Is this just a guy from a different generation who had some fire and brimstone and the locker room was not taking it well? Just a clash of personalities and styles?
Well, we know that Chris Paul is one of the ultimate competitors that this game has ever seen. And when Lawrence was talking about the type of player that they wanted to use that final roster spot on, he felt that Chris obviously fit that description very well, but I don't think he or anybody else could have anticipated the Clippers would be 5-16. And had you told Lawrence before the season that this is going to be, a 5-16 group through 21 games, perhaps he would have felt differently about having CP on this team, because we know that Chris hates losing. He's said that many times. It doesn't matter if he's, 40 years old in the last season of his career and, the 11th man on the bench, or if he's in the MVP discussion as, the best player on a contender. He wants to win. He hates losing. So I don't think that's going to change for him. And it, presumably, from everything that we've seen and everything that we know, there was a level of adamance on his end that whatever the Clippers were doing out there on the floor, or maybe even, in the locker room at practice, wasn't up to standard. And, it seems like he made that known. We don't know exactly how he said that, what exactly he said, how it was received, but, clearly it led to the news that we got last night.
You're seeing, understandably, there's a lot of backlash from the fan base. I have to think the Clippers gauged this and just thought things were so toxic and so bad. It's not what they wanted to do. It's what they had to do, what they felt like was in the best interest of the team. Do you think this is something where they got the temperature of the locker room and guys had to also sign off on CP3 leaving?
You would assume so. What's a little bit strange to me is that the messaging from Lawrence, from Ty, has of course been, this isn't how we wanted it to end with CP. But what I've found strange is that clearly with the way that CP has posted on social media, with the reports that are coming out that, you can kind of tell are probably coming, from a little bit closer to his side of things, this isn't something that he wanted. So if that is true and neither side wanted it to play out this way, I think what's especially disappointing, Adam, is that, this is arguably the greatest player in your franchise's history. You weren't able to find a way to either fix this or have it end differently. And I think that's where a lot of fans are disappointed, right? Like, I'm sure there's a lot of shared blame in all of this, but when you have two sides that, by all accounts, didn't want things to end like this, and yet here we are, I think that's very disappointing.
How do you reconcile this with what happened with Blake Griffin and just the relationship between the franchise and those players from the Lob City era that, many people look upon that era very fondly because that was the start of them having 14 straight winning seasons, and CP3 gave them real legitimacy and wanted to be a Clipper and had a lot of pride supporting the Clippers and being an ambassador of Clippers basketball. Just, how awkward could this get in the future? We were talking about, Blake Griffin's going to have his jersey retired this season, maybe. CP3's next. And it makes things just more complicated, it feels like.
I'll stand by the tweet that I put out last night because I do think it's always important to acknowledge that the NBA, as we all know, is a business and there are decisions that need to be made without emotion involved. But, this is a Clippers organization that doesn't have a very great history. And in recent history, undoubtedly, the two greatest players are Blake Griffin and Chris Paul. And for one reason or another, their time in LA or, for Blake, it ended just with one stint. For CP, it was a second stint. It didn't end well, and it was an unfortunate ending in both instances. And, I think there's two separate discussions to be had, right? Like, I don't think many people at this point argue that it was a bad move to deal Blake when they did, but he's gone on the record multiple times saying that he pretty much found out on Twitter like everybody else. He would have appreciated the opportunity to, maybe speak into his next destination or at least have a heads up that he was being shopped or being moved before, finding out the same way everybody else did. And then obviously we don't know everything that led up to this CP situation, but clearly, like I said earlier, it's a disappointing outcome when you have two sides that, by all accounts, didn't want it to end this way. So in terms of how that impacts the future, it's hard to say. But it's definitely an unfortunate look in the present.
How do you view the power structure and power dynamics within the organization? Obviously, Steve Ballmer's only been the owner for 11 seasons. I think Clipper Nation is very grateful for that. I, in some ways, look at them as a different franchise, a new franchise, since he took over. We know he empowers his basketball people out there. And Lawrence Frank said earlier today that Coach Lue is going to be the coach here for a long time. He made that very clear. Just when it comes to decision-making with these things and structure, how do you see it, or what knowledge do you have on that front?
Well, I think today it became especially clear that Lawrence and Ty are very much a partnership. They're very much aligned. And obviously, when it comes to any potential changes, that's going to be a Steve decision. But those two guys seem to have the trust of Steve, and Lawrence reiterated his trust and partnership with Ty here today. So in terms of any immediate changes, it doesn't seem like that's coming. So I think that you can expect to see that tandem here going forward. If anything changes with more losses, I guess we'll have to see. But for right now, Lawrence made it clear today that him and Ty, they're in this together. Lawrence built this team. He took responsibility for their poor record. He said that, he thinks Ty Lue is one of the best coaches in the NBA, and he obviously has the full backing of the organization. So there's at least publicly no signs of any uncertainty around the future of those two.
Do you think the vision remains the same now, where they are still trying to win and be competitive right now and save cap space for 26 and 27? And they're not going to have a knee-jerk reaction with making a trade that could help them somewhat now, but might actually hurt them in the future?
I would be very surprised if they did something like that, just given how intentional they have been in recent seasons, even with the way that they've structured, the deals for Kawhi and James, to make sure that they aren't committing long-term money beyond this kind of 1 to 2 year window that they're in right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to make a move that does improve the team this season. I mean, Lawrence said that again today, that they will do whatever needs to be done to make this roster better if, it turns out they are, in fact, 5-16 bad. But I would be very shocked if that was a move that, Adam, to your point, really restricts any future financial flexibility. I would expect them to bring in another, maybe expiring contract guy that can help kind of, push them to where they're trying to get to this season, and then they reevaluate come summertime.
Last one here, Joey. Is there anything internally that can just change with this team, with style of play, given the guys they have, given the age of the team, that can help turn this thing around in the near term?
Well, as much as I would like to say yes, I think the concern with that is what else is there left to try? I think Ty has been very open that he's tried everything, and I think he has for the most part. Like, you've seen him go away from Brook Lopez. He went away from CP. He's played the young guys. there's only so many levers from like a roster construction standpoint that a head coach can pull. So I really don't know if there's anything tactically left for them to do. And another concern of mine is that we keep continuing to hear the word effort from these guys. And, John Collins said it in the locker room the other day. He said, what's the definition of insanity, right? Like we continue to do the same thing over and over again, say the same thing over and over again, expect different results. So I asked him straight up, I was like, well, how do you fix effort, right? Because anybody who's played sports at any level has probably heard a coach tell them there's two things you can control, your attitude and your effort. So if effort is one of those controllable variables and it continues to be a problem for this group 21 games in when they're 5-16, at what point do we just accept that it's probably not going to change? So we shall see. Of course, a lot of season left to be played, but the season's also not extremely young anymore at this point either. So that's certainly a situation that we'll have to wait and see.
He's Joey Lynn, covers the Clippers for Sports Illustrated, does a great job, but I'm not just saying that because he's also a Biola grad. Follow him at Joey Lynn with 2 N's and an underscore at the end on X. Joey, thanks for the analysis, the intel, and the insight on a crazy 16, 18 hours here for Clipper Nation, my friend. Thanks for a little bit more clarity.
Pleasure as always, Adam. Thank you.
Coming up next, as we get set for the Clippers in Atlanta taking on the Hawks, we'll get your drive around the league. I'm Adam Osland, and you're listening to the Los Angeles Clippers Audio Network. Clippers in Atlanta taking on the Hawks. Tip-off just about 14 minutes away here on Clippers Countdown. I'm Adam Osland. Hope you guys got a little bit more knowledge of the situation with CP3 from Joey Lynn from Sports Illustrated last segment. I'll post that on the YouTube side in the video section if you missed some of it. Coming up, back to Carlo Jimenez. But first, your drive around the league brought to you by Toyota. It's the Here and Now sales event at your Toyota dealer. The clock is ticking. Don't wait to grab a great deal on a new Toyota. We make it easy. Coming up a little bit later tonight, Dallas Mavericks at 7:15 hosting the Miami Heat. We're now 14-7 after taking down your Clippers on Monday in a game where they trailed by as many as 38. In Milwaukee, they got their own issues going on. Giannis Antetokounmpo apparently has requested a trade, is open to a trade. all things that were expected with this Milwaukee Bucks lineup and roster that I thought at some point, they're going to be under 500, and Giannis is going to be looking around elsewhere. They're 9-13. They host the Pistons tonight. We'll see what transpires with that situation. In Houston, it's the Rockets to 5-16 Sacramento Kings. Alperen Şengün has been one of the best players in the NBA this season. If you haven't watched him, Baby Joker, 23, 9, and 7 assists per game, has the Rockets at 13-5. It's not just Kevin Durant over there. A couple of games that have just tipped off in Indiana. It's the Nuggets taking on the Pacers. Early 10-9 lead for the Nuggets with Nikola Jokic already with 4 quick ones. Coming up next, Carlo Jimenez will rejoin us from Atlanta. Clippers taking on the Hawks. Tip-off just about 12 minutes away. I'm Adam Osland, and you're listening to the Los Angeles Clippers Audio Network. Clippers in Atlanta taking on the Hawks. Tip-off just about 12 minutes away here on Clippers Countdown. Welcome back in. I'm Adam Osland. Coming up, we'll get your keys to victory. But first, back out to Carlo Jimenez from State Farm Arena. Carlo, let's talk about these Atlanta Hawks a little bit. Getting by without what was assumed to be the best player heading into the season in Trae Young. But now Jalen Johnson has really had room to spread his wings. He has emerged, and he's playing like one of the best players in the league right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's been incredible. 23 points a game, 10 rebounds, 7 assists. The only other guy, Adam, with those numbers or better is Nikola Jokic. So to give you some kind of context of how good he's been on the offensive end, he has been that good for this team and really set to become an all-star if he continues this play. I mean, he started last year really, really well, but just went down with an injury 36 games in and never really was able to get back after injuring his shoulder. And he's kind of expected this out of himself. He had a 40-point game earlier this season and said, quote, "These are the things I prepare for. It's the trust and confidence I have in my work." And Quinn Snyder, credit to him, has really handed the reins over to somebody like Jalen Johnson, who's now averaging 33 in his last 3 contests.
So I know he's had some injuries as of late, but he is available in this ball game, right?
He was downgraded to questionable. I don't know. Here we go. We got John Kramer is going to help me out here.
The ruling? Do we have a
Jalen Johnson is out.
Oh!
With a right calf tightness.
The guy with those numbers that has been almost as good as Nikola Jokic this season. You
He's
know
not
what?
playing.
The Clippers better find a way to win this ball game. They're 5-16, and the Hawks are now missing their best player. That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Speedy recovery to Jalen Johnson, but it's an opportunity for the Clippers to get right. You could say a get right game has produced itself, but the problem is most teams have seen the Clippers as a get right game so far this season. With him out in this ball game, who could you see getting more minutes for this Hawks team, Carlo?
They're going to really rely on Dyson Daniels, Nikhil Alexander-Walker, who has 30 points, who's averaging 30 points a game his last three. Minnesota decided not to sign him to a big deal, and Nikhil has played his best basketball here with the Atlanta Hawks. Zachary Rizachet is kind of taking a step back this season after his excellent rookie season, the former number 1 overall pick. But as long as Vit Krejci doesn't go off, the Clippers should be okay. I mean, they just have to guard Vit Krejci and make sure nobody else knocks down 8 threes on 10 attempts today. I think that will be enough for
He
this
may have
Clipper team.
24 threes himself, like the entire Miami Heat team had against the Clippers on Monday with how things have been going. But let's be positive here. This Clippers team trying to find themselves. You know, I talk about Big Zoo often. He's one of my favorite players in the league and on this Clippers team. But he has to be more assertive at times out there.
Yeah.
This is a game where they could use his physicality on the interior, or maybe he gets some early touches to get him going in the ballgame.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're playing Muhammad Gay off the bench, who's been great for them at 6'11", 210 pounds, but he just does not have the experience in year 3 as a second-round pick that didn't play much his first 2 seasons that Ivica Zubats has in year 10. And then Onyeka Okongwu is a good defender, a little undersized, and Rizachet really is more of a 4 than a 5. So can the Clippers get Big Zoo the ball, and can he dominate? Top 5 in the NBA in paint points per game, averaging 14 a contest. The Clippers have to find Big Zoo. Adam, for this team to come away with a win, they got to get back to it defensively. That's going to be a huge key, but it's paint points. I mean, the Clippers average 56 paint points in wins, 44 in losses. They just have to be better in the paint, and you have to get back in transition against this Atlanta team. The Hawks average 12 points a game in transition in their losses and 24 in their wins. You do those two things, you should be able to come away with a victory.
That's a great point. More paint touches, get to the paint or die trying, because the three-point shot hasn't been with the Clippers so much this season, and personnel-wise, we'll see if that turns around at some point, if Bogdan Bogdanovic can return, but they just don't have enough three-point shooters. So feast a little bit more in the paint. John Collins, my player to watch back in Atlanta. He can help them there. Carlo, who's your player to watch tonight?
Ooh, I like doing this because it's fun. I'm going to go with another guy who played here in Atlanta. Short career, but he played. Chris Dunn played 9 total games in a hockey uniform, including some playoff contests. And I just think if Chris can shoot the ball well and get steals defensively, turn defense to offense, that's going to help the Clippers a lot. I thought in Miami in the first half, really until the 6-minute mark of the second quarter, the Clippers did a very good job of turning defense to offense. They forced turnover over turnover against the Heat and turned it into points. So I'm going Chris Dunn, 9 games in the Hawks, the 2020-2021 season. Hopefully he can have a good contest. If Dunn and Collins play getting double figures at him, the Clippers have a great chance to win this game.
Double trouble for Atlanta. Clippers taking on the Hawks. Tip-off just about 6 minutes away. Carlo Jimenez on the call. Coming up next, I'll get your keys to victory right here on the Los Angeles Clippers Audio Network. Clippers in Atlanta taking on the Hawks. Tip-off just moments away. Let's get to your keys to victory. What I saw when the starters returned, especially Kawhi, down 38 in that ball game Monday night against the Heat, was a better effort out there. We talked about it with Joey Lynn a little bit earlier. Sometimes it's as simple as just playing harder. There has to be a want to. There has to be a buy-in. Guys have to believe. And you know what? There may have been a shakeup when Coach Lou pushed that button that said, in case of emergency with starters not giving effort, we're going to take them all out. That's what happened a minute and a half into the third quarter. Starters got benched, and when they came back in, they seemed to respond Monday night. I want to see if there's any carryover from that in the first quarter. Now in Atlanta, there needs to be a sense of urgency at some point here. Has to kick in for the Clippers. All right, here we go. It's Carlo Jimenez on the call from State Farm Arena in Atlanta. Clippers and Hawks. And you're listening to the Los Angeles Clippers Audio Network.
We welcome you to Atlanta. The road trip continues, and the Clippers continue to look for a victory, taking on the Atlanta Hawks with an opportunity to come away with a win and split the season series with Atlanta for the 7th time in the last